I'm Andy Roddick. You're listening to the Serve Podcast. That sounded like a call map, didn't it? Always messing around with it. Welcome to another week of the Serve Podcast. Thank you for liking, subscribing, listening, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for watching T2 on Sunday. If you did, if you didn't, then we got a lot more show for you. This is where to go when you want the super extended version. Producer Mike and I got drunk the way teenagers get drunk this weekend. We went to a beautiful charity event here in the Charlotte area. Levine Children's Hospital does amazing work. We certainly celebrated that. And then it was kind of like, it was a little irresponsible, a little tragic.
I mean, it was Flow Rider was the performer, and I definitely channeled like 21-year-old Mike, and my body hated me the next day.
Yeah, I had many. How do I put this? I'm just gonna say it. I had no less than 18 white people come up to me and go, "I'm excited about Flow Rider." I'm like, "There's no R. It's just Florida, man." Like. His name is, get it? He's from Florida. His name is Flo Rida. And they go, and then you had the moment they go, there isn't an R, is there? I'm like, no, thank you for your donation. He was great though. Like, I mean, he knows what his business is now, right? Like, so Levine Children's part of the atrium system, and I about broke when Flo Rida goes, "Ain't no party like an atrium party." I was like, oh.
No prompter. He whipped that one up.
Yep, he just insert sponsor name, pay the man. Anyways, we got drunk. We were morons. Like, it's bad when you're with a group of people and your wife was one of these people. I caught Rose Hayden and our friend Nazi begging like the backup drummer to play Pocket Full of Sunshine by Natasha Bedingfield. Just play it one more time. I'm like, the lights were on. And by the way, you'd never get people to leave that want to dance, but you throw the lights on like a bright, like Home Depot type light where it is, and everyone vanishes real quick after a night. They've been sweating off like whatever their faces look like 3 hours earlier. It's like people weren't leaving. You throw that light on, we scatter.
Especially in this age bracket.
We scatter like rats in New York City with a loud bang. We are gone. I had a hangover. I don't really have those anymore. Great time. There are certainly weekends where I've made better decisions than what I made. And you were right there with me. Bottom of the barrel. It was bad.
It's a team effort here.
We did. Greg Olson of NFL fame. I don't know if I don't want to project my drunkenness onto him. When you're like pretty drunk, you think everyone else is on your level, even if they're just, kind of thinking to themselves, this guy's pretty drunk. He said he might come on the pod. He was telling pretty funny stories of like his tennis arc that he started in the last 3 or 4 years, which was pretty funny.
Yeah. I think anybody that is a premier athlete like him, I want to hear his take on learning the challenge of learning tennis at this point in his life.
I just want to make fun of him because there's nothing to make fun of him for. He's 6'4", looks like an absolute Viking.
Nicest guy. Gave one of the
sometimes they have us dummy athletes go up during these things and try to say something. He had no prompter. His son, TJ, he had a very significant attachment to this specific cause. His son, TJ, had been has had a long battle and has been in and out of Levine Children's Hospital. So he was attachment to it, but no notes. 12 out of 10 with telling his story and having some levity. And he was just great. But anyways, we had a great time. Bad decisions were made. Florida was great. We had a great time. Who had a better weekend than us and made a lot of good decisions?
Who?
The Danimal.
Oof.
Danielle Collins. We're going to get into it in in a little bit more depth, because I think that's the story from this week in tennis is her continued dominance on the heels of Miami. Switching surfaces, no problem. Just running through the field again. Ben Shelton, All-American final down in Houston. Ben Shelton getting the win over Frances Tiafoe. Frances needed this result. Has been short on matches, not his favorite surface. I actually think this is probably more significant at this part of the year for Frances than it was for Ben. Obviously, Ben, first clay court title, second title overall, first one in the States. So not entirely unexpected, but for him, it's good to kind of get some wins on this surface. And now scheduling is going to be a thing. We'll see how much he goes over to Europe, how much he kind of, something that I've talked about with Ben's father is like at some point, and we'll get into this further with scheduling, but you have to reset and maintain your physicality, right? There's tennis, which the tennis is there. He's playing well. He's on the job training, was kind of able to walk in and not have complete control over game planning, not have complete control over intent behind each shot, shot selection, all these things. But the rawness of his game is so powerful that he kind of got into the top 15 before he actually understands everything at his disposal and when and how to deploy it. So I think getting through matches like this, tough three setters on clay, is going to serve him so well moving forward for the rest of the year. But Frances needed to win some matches. He had a tough, and I love Frances. We're better when Frances is playing well. But I think he would tell you he'd have a bridge to sell you if he thought that he was playing well to this point in the season. Hopefully we can turn that right around. But always nice to see two Americans in the finals of Houston. I wouldn't put too much stock in what happens in Houston. Any tournament that I made finals of on clay 5 years running, you can't give too much credit to. The Houston thing is it's great. You switch surfaces after Miami, but essentially it's a 250 event. You're playing against other Americans on clay, which is sometimes a liar's dice, and maybe some players who are trying to sneak in a 250 and before they go over to Europe. And over in Europe, starting his clay court season early, wildly early, Hubie Hurkacz won his first clay court title. Doesn't get talked about enough. He's always kind of there in the top 10, top 15, sneaks in the top 8, one of the biggest serves on tour. Nothing that he does well instantly translates to clay and is benefited by the surface. So for him to get through, Casper Ruud going down in the semis, Hurkacz beating Martinez in the final, who great clay court player, I think that's good for him on this surface. Nice when you can break through and win on the different surfaces. But back to Danielle Collins. Mid-50s going into Miami before the first round, is now 15 in the world.
Wow.
What a difference 2.5 weeks makes. But also lost one set each of these tournaments. The first set she played in Miami and then ran through the draw. And the only set she loses in Charleston, she drilled the last two opponents. And she went through a tough draw too. Badosa, Jabeur, and Jabeur is the only one who won a set. Sloane Stephens, Sakkari, Kasatkina, beating Kasatkina in the final 1-2, beat Sloane 2-2. Sakkari with straight sets. The questions were, I'm always a fan of, after Miami, people go, is she going to pull out of Charleston? I go, if she's healthy, physically healthy, mentally there's going to be a little bit of fatigue. You cannot choose when you play well. When you do, you max that out, I think. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what she does, because there is such thing as going to Europe too early, especially from the States. So it'll be interesting to see what she does here. But gosh, that turnaround from Saturday final, Tuesday in Charleston, and then just right through. The day she beat Jabeur and Sloane, it had rained. She played both those matches in the same day. One against Jabeur in the afternoon and Sloane at night, and beat Sloane 2-2. Sloane's won this tournament before. Can't say enough good things about Collins. I don't know if just her impending decision on this being her last year has just freed her up completely mentally. The physical part of it is so convincing right now with what she's doing. She is just setting herself up right on the baseline and distributing, just throwing punch after punch after punch after punch. And the fun thing to watch when someone is playing as well as Danielle Collins is, you hear a lot of, pundits and commentators say, well, they step up on big points. It's like, I don't think it's like we would just do that all the time if it was a choice. Like, I don't think it's a choice. What I felt in those 4 or 5 pockets of like extended success where you're winning a couple tournaments at a time, is the ability, you're at least going to play a good point. And if someone comes up with the goods, too good, but you're going to make it an absolute pain in the ass, right? You're not going to miss second serve returns. You're going to move the ball around. They're going to have to come up with a winner. It's not that I know I'm going to win this point and I'm going to do it, I'm going to step up and hit winners. No, I am so confident that I'm going to produce a quality point that they're going to have to produce something spectacular. They know it. I know it. That's what I think confidence is the ability to step up regardless of the situation and simply play a quality tennis point. And when you're not playing well, maybe you do it 50% of the time under the gun. When you are playing well, you think you're going to do it 95% of the time. Now, it may not be a winner. It's not this flashy second serve. Oh, go for it. Hit a win. That's not it. It's literally racket speed, big cuts to big parts of the court. Danielle Collins if she hits on the line, it's kind of accidental. She pulled it or she's winning points. I've seen her hit more winners through the middle of one side of the court. Like people are having to guess whether she's going to hit it cross court down the line. Her margins are pretty safe. She's just hitting it so well, moving so well. She's not giving up the center of that court and is just distributing beautifully. It almost kind of like that's what Andre used to do, right? It was like park himself on the baseline and he was just going to distribute. When your air count goes down and your winners go up, normally tends to have a good effect. But congrats to Danielle Collins. Let's see what happens with a change of scenery when you go to Europe. Is this 2 weeks going to be in a silo of the best 2 weeks of her career? Or are we going to be able to get it, go over to Europe and have it translate? The feelings are different when you go over there. The clay is a little bit dustier. It's a little bit more slippery. We'll see. And if she's hitting the ball this clean come Wimbledon and can hit behind people, I wouldn't want to play her. I'll tell you that much right now. So props to Danielle Collins. As we see the tour transition from the hard to the clay, you're going to see choices in scheduling. The next 3 weeks is going to be very apparent. When I finished Miami, when I stopped playing the Houston event later in my career, you weren't going to see me for 3 weeks or a month. And it wasn't because I was on vacation. I would go incredibly hard, like late November, December training. I would show up to Australia and I was normally in great shape. I would maintain through Miami. You're playing a lot of matches, but in the gym, you're trying to maintain. And then Miami was over. I took the next 3 weeks and I would go back, maybe take 3 or 4 days of rest. I would stack it hard with fitness because I knew that was going to be the cycle that kind of carried me through Wimbledon. That's the way I thought. You're going to see people prioritize differently. A lot of players early in Monte Carlo. Casper Ruud started this week in Estoril. Like he's going to play every clay court event because he should. That's his Australia through Miami for me is this Monte Carlo through Roland Garros. You won't see him, on a hard court after Wimbledon until he has to be on one. But scheduling choice, transition is going to be a little bit different. The people you see earlier in the clay court season are probably people who are a little bit more native to the surface. Plenty of opportunity though. Three Master Series events into Roland Garros. The long haul of the clay court season, there's going to be a lot of dirty socks, Mike Hayden. A lot of laundry going on over in Europe. Will be fun to see. Coming up after the break, we're going to kick to our guy, Jon Wertheim. Big news that we covered for the T2 show that you'll rehear now. The Saudis and the WTA come into agreement to send the World Tour Finals to Saudi Arabia for 3 years. And obviously there are some nuanced parts to that conversation past. They were obviously the highest bidder. I tend to think the 3-year give probably beats the yearly bids that I think was coming out. I think they were coming out of Prague. Is that right? Or Czech Republic somewhere.
It was Czech Republic.
Yeah. Okay. So it was Czech Republic. So we'll discuss that in nuance. Nadal, unfortunately, out of Monte Carlo. We're getting to that point where it's becoming a little stressful when you think about Roland Garros. And His apparently it's an abdomen back situation. Serve didn't look great at the match in Vegas. Everything else looks fine. You know, you're watching Instagram videos and he's hitting the ball great. We'll discuss our thoughts and our general sadness around Rafa not being out on tour active. And he says, my body just won't let me do it right now. Hopefully that changes, but we'll go to Jon Wertheim after the break. We have to talk about all of this stuff, and we haven't even gotten to the fact that the greatest clay court player of all time.
Oh, him. Yeah.
Might. Yeah. Gosh. Big news week. Mike, did you think that you come into like a whirlwind from someone not with a tennis background, all of a sudden there's like moving parts and hitting stories every week. It's like, I think it's you.
I mean, I think, you know, the script writers worked out for us, you know, we told them we were planning on launching this podcast and we needed some juice. But it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's sad to see, you know, the tweet from Rafa, you know, and that the sentiment is that his body won't let him. I mean, that's like the saddest thing to read from somebody so great that just, it has to be just crushing him on the inside.
I kind of always have thought also that like, I've had this hope in the back of my mind that like, he's going to get healthy, and he doesn't need to be healthy for 52 weeks. He needs to be healthy for 2 months, like, and just burn it, go, all of it, take all the painkillers that you need to take, and let's go time. Let's do one more. And I always kind of thought we were going to have some version of that. Maybe not winning, but like, imagine him winning a third round at Roland Garros, like a top 4 setter. The place falls apart. Like, I want that for him. And similar to Roger retired at Laver Cup. He probably wouldn't say this out loud. Roger wanted to retire like a Wimbledon or US Open, and he wanted to play those. He wanted to do that. You know, he wanted to say goodbye. And it happened in 3 days as opposed to 3 months, right? It feels like we're getting closer to that being reality for Rafa. When he was in Vegas, corners were tough. The biggest thing that I noticed, and it's a tougher thing to observe with Rafa because it's never been the thing that he hung his hat on, the serving was tough. The serving was bad. Action, pace, second serve wasn't kicking up and away. That's tough. The rumor is the back is the problem. We don't know that. We find out a lot of these things after the fact. How do you feel about this, John? It makes me like kind of sad.
Yeah, I don't know how. This is one of the great tragedies of sports, right? You don't get to author your own ending. And certainly Roger wasn't able to. You think about the way Serena went out, right? I mean, realistically, yes, it'd be great if she'd pulled a Pete Sampras and won the tournament. Short of that, she's in New York. She announces it's her final event. So there's all of this buildup. She hijacks week 1. She pulls out a couple of great matches. And then that's about as good as you could hope for. This is not. I'm curious how you would game plan this, right? So Rafa goes to Australia, leaves Christmas Eve. He's feeling better. He's going to make this one final push. And he looks good for, you know, a couple matches, not necessarily against the highest caliber player, but then he tweaks himself, has to pull out, and the exhibition notwithstanding, we really haven't seen him since. If you're Rafa right now, do you say, it's been a great ride, my body ain't cooperating, here's my vote? Maybe he it's like Angel Reese. Maybe he does a Vogue first person like Serena did. But do you say, you know what, ball game? Do you try and play Rome and Madrid? You get to play in your home country one more time. It's clay, but you risk what happened in Australia, which is you tweak yourself and you can't play the major. Or do you go to the French Open without any buildup, without any sort of rhythm, without any match play on clay, and just say, this is my last? I mean, it's really, it's a pretty brutal battery of options. But if you're Rafa right now and you're game planning this, what's your schedule look like?
I don't know, because I can't feel what he's feeling. Obviously, you want that goodbye at Roland Garros. It would suck if he can't get that. I got to think every single, like, if he's practicing but not serving well, I still got to think he's going to throw that out there in Roland Garros. If he can walk out there and at least play, even if it's not great. Like, I get that in Monte Carlo, if I can't play 100%, I'm not playing. I guess I get it in Madrid. I get it in Rome. I don't think that line of thought holds water. He wants to say goodbye at the place that he's won at 14 times. I want that for him. But frankly, John, I don't think there's a plan. I think you're reacting to the situation. And that is frustrating as a player because we plan out our schedules a year in advance, right? And you can plan, I like this tournament, I don't like that tournament, this gives me the best chance of success. And you're pretty confident at a certain point in your career with what the best decision is regarding schedule. JW, lots of good stuff this week. Thank you for the education. Don't do anything I wouldn't do in Amsterdam.
Biking. Always wear a helmet.
Wear a helmet. Wear a helmet.
Wear a helmet, boys.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to another week of the Serve podcast with me, Andy, your friend. I'm excited for next week's episode. Two of my friends that I've known since we were all single digits age, not handicapped. They have some work to do for that. I don't. I'm fine. totally a low single. Don't worry about it. Bob and Mike Bryan coming on, which I cannot wait for. And forever and a day, they have handled themselves, the public-facing side. It's like a double mint commercial. Always happy. You feel like you see them on like a two-person bicycle riding through an orchard or something. Obviously, wildly successful. More Grand Slam titles than any doubles team in history. First ballot Hall of Famers, in my opinion. But having been around them for so many years at Davis Cup and other events, they fight, and when they fight, it is hilarious. And when they storytell about they've never called signals like crosses, Mike. Like when they're on the doubles court, they don't. Like everything they do is just based on feelings, like this twin thing. So we'll dive into that. Hopefully, I can get them to talk about when they would actually get in fistfights and like punch each other. Hopefully, we'll get them to the point where they're just kind of going at each other and ripping on each other. And it's just, I am looking forward to hopefully an immature mess of a show. That's my goal for next week's show. That's all we got for you. I'm Andy Roddick. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, Apple, Spotify, all the places you get your podcast. Watch on T2 and check out our YouTube channel as well. We'll see you next week.